Picture this. August 11th, 480 BC, a dusty coastal road called Thermopylae, the Hot Gates, where mountains squeeze against the Malian Gulf. A Persian messenger rides forward expecting the usual: fear, surrender negotiations, maybe a symbolic gift of earth and water. Just another day conquering the world. Instead, he finds 7,000 Greeks blocking the narrowest point of the pass, like a human wall. The Spartans in front? They're not preparing defenses, they're exercising. Combing their hair. One looks up from oiling his shield and tells the messenger, "Come and take them." When the first Persian assault wave charges in, they don't just get stopped, they get shredded. Spears punch through wicker shields into faces. Bodies pile up so high, the second wave has to climb over their own dead just to reach Greek spear points. The immortals, Xerxes' elite 10,000, fare no better. They're elite in open ground. Here, they're just more meat for the grinder. This isn't a movie exaggeration. This is August 480 BC, documented by Herodotus and confirmed by the landscape itself. A 200,000-man empire, some ancient sources say over 1 million, forced to attack through a space so narrow that all those numbers become a liability. The Hot Gates didn't just slow the Persians down, it turned their greatest advantage into a logistical nightmare where more men meant more chaos, more congestion, more dying. Why would 7,000 men stand here? Because they were done. Done watching Persian armies burn Greek cities. Done with the threat of slavery for their families. Done with running. The Spartans had a law: never retreat, never surrender. The other Greeks, Thespians, Thebans, Phocians, they knew this was a suicide mission and stayed anyway. Because sometimes you don't fight to win, you fight to buy time, to bleed an empire so badly it thinks twice, to show that conquest has a price. And at Thermopylae, the Persians paid in blood for every single foot of that road. This sets the stage for one of history's most brutal reversals: how geography can delete numbers. How 7,000 men turned a narrow pass into a 3-day nightmare that would change how the Persians saw Greeks forever. From afterthought to threat. From easy conquest to never underestimate these people again. By the time Xerxes finally breaks through, using betrayal, not strength, he'll have learned a lesson that haunts the rest of his invasion. Wherever you're watching from right now, whether that's North America, Europe, Asia, wherever, hit that like button because we're about to break down exactly how Thermopylae worked. Not the Hollywood version. The real tactical nightmare of terrain, timing, and why the Hot Gates became Persia's graveyard. Let's get into it. The strategic picture. Spring 480 BC, the largest invasion force the ancient world has ever seen crosses the Hellespont into Europe. Xerxes, king of kings, ruler of the Persian Empire, has assembled somewhere between 120,000 and 300,000 soldiers. Ancient sources claim over 1 million. Whatever the true number, it's enough to drink rivers dry. His target? Greece. His mission? Finish what his father Darius started. Revenge for the Persian defeat at Marathon 10 years earlier. The Greek city-states are scrambling. Athens and Sparta, bitter rivals, suddenly find themselves on the same side. They need a plan. Fast. Here's what they come up with. A 2-pronged defense. Hold the narrow coastal pass at Thermopylae on land. Block the Persian fleet at Artemisium by sea. These 2 points work together like a lock and key. If the pass holds, the fleet can't land troops behind the Greek army. If the fleet holds, the Persians can't bypass the pass entirely. The strategy isn't about winning, not yet. It's about buying time. Every day the Persians bleed at Thermopylae is another day for southern Greece to prepare, another day for Athens to evacuate, another day for the Greek fleet to gather strength. 7,000 men against an empire. Not to stop it, just to slow it down. Stay with me. Because the place they chose to make that stand? It's about to become the most efficient killing ground in ancient history. This is a road that deletes numbers. Forget what you think you know about Thermopylae. Forget the wide coastal plain you'd see if you visited today. In 480 BC, the landscape was completely different. Picture a mountain wall, sheer cliffs dropping straight down. At the base, a narrow coastal road squeezed between those cliffs and the Malian Gulf. In some places, the pass was wide enough for a wagon. In others, barely wide enough for 2 men to walk abreast. The road had 3 natural choke points. The Greeks called them gates. The eastern gate, the middle gate, the western gate, each one a natural bottleneck where the mountains pinched the road tight. The Greeks chose to defend the middle gate. Why? Because here, an ancient wall built by the Phocians still stood, crumbling but usable, and the terrain was perfect. Hot springs bubbled up from the ground. That's where the name Hot Gates comes from, creating marshy, waterlogged soil on either side of a narrow causeway. Think about that. You're a Persian commander. You have 200,000 men, and you have to funnel them through a space where maybe 15 to 20 soldiers can stand shoulder to shoulder at any given time. Your cavalry? Useless. Horses can't charge through a mountain pass. Your archers? Limited. Can't get clear shots when your own men are packed in front of you. Your numbers? They're not an advantage anymore. They're a traffic jam, a logistical catastrophe, men bunching up, tripping over each other, unable to use their weapons properly. Here's where it gets strange. The sea today is over 3 miles from the pass. Ancient descriptions talk about waves crashing against the cliffs. That's not poetic license. The coastline has shifted dramatically over 2,500 years. Sediment from the Sparkios River pushed the sea back, burying the ancient battlefield under farmland. The hot gates that Xerxes saw? They don't exist anymore. The kill zone is gone. Only the mountains remain. But in August 480 BC, that narrow strip of blood-soaked earth was about to become the most expensive piece of real estate in Persian history. The Greek formula for holding hell. Let's talk about who actually showed up. Not 300. That number is famous, but it's incomplete. The real Greek force numbered around 7,000 men. 300 Spartans under King Leonidas, yes, but also 700 Thespians, 400 Thebans, over 1,000 Phocians and Locrians, soldiers from across central Greece who knew exactly what they were signing up for. Now let's talk about why these men were so dangerous in this specific place. Greek hoplites were heavy infantry. Each one carried a massive bronze-faced shield called an aspis, about 3 feet across, weighing 15 to 20 pounds. They wore bronze helmets, bronze chest armor, bronze greaves on their shins. Their primary weapon, an 8-foot spear called a dory. In open battle, all that bronze made them slow, vulnerable to flanking, easy targets for cavalry and archers. But in a narrow pass, they became a wall of death. The phalanx formation turned individual soldiers into a single organism. Shields overlapped, creating an unbroken barrier. Spears jutted out in rows, each man protecting the man beside him. You couldn't fight one hoplite. You had to fight all of them at once. And here's the tactical nightmare for the Persians. They couldn't flank, couldn't surround, couldn't use their cavalry, couldn't deploy their archers effectively. Every single advantage of their massive army was neutralized by the terrain. Persian infantry carried wicker shields, shorter spears, less armor. In open ground, their speed and numbers would overwhelm Greeks in minutes. At Thermopylae, they were bringing knives to a tank fight. The Greeks didn't need to win. They just needed to hold. And in that narrow corridor of death, 7,000 men with bronze shields and 8-foot spears were about to teach the Persian Empire what hold really meant. Xerxes' perspective. Just break through. Put yourself on that golden throne. You're Xerxes, king of kings, ruler of an empire stretching from India to Egypt. You've assembled the largest army in human history. You've built bridges across the sea itself. Nations surrender at the mere rumor of your approach. And now you're staring at a dirt road blocked by 7,000 men. You wait 4 days. Surely they'll see reason. Surely they'll flee when they grasp the scale of what's coming. Your scouts report the Spartans are exercising, combing their hair. One of your advisors, a Greek exile named Demaratus, explains, they're preparing to die and to kill. You don't believe him. How could you? You've conquered civilizations. These are farmers and part-time soldiers from tiny city-states that can't even stop fighting each other. But here's the trap you don't see. Time is not on your side. 200,000 men eat a lot of food, drink a lot of water. Every day you sit here, your supply lines stretch thinner. Every day, the Greek fleet at Artemisium keeps your navy pinned. Every day, southern Greece prepares stronger defenses. You can't wait them out. You can't go around them. The fleet can't land troops with Greek ships blocking the strait. You can't negotiate. They've made their answer clear. There's only one option, straight through. So you give the order. Send the first wave, Medes and Scythians, good troops, experienced troops. Watch what happens next. Day 1, the Medes go in, the morning of the first assault. Persian commanders form up the Median and Scythian regiments, thousands of men, veterans of a dozen conquests. They've crushed armies from Egypt to Babylon. They march toward the middle gate, and they walk straight into a meat grinder. Picture the geometry. The pass narrows to maybe 50 feet wide. 15 to 20 men can fight abreast. That's it. The rest of your army? Standing behind you, watching, waiting, unable to help. The Greeks are fresh, rotating units in and out of the front line like shifts at a factory. When one group tires, they pull back. Another steps forward, shields lock, spears level. The killing continues. The Persians can't rotate. There's nowhere to go. The men in front are pressed forward by the men behind. No room to retreat. No room to maneuver. Just forward, into the spear points, over the bodies of the men who went before. Herodotus describes Persian officers standing behind their own lines with whips, lashing men forward. Not because the soldiers were cowards, because the ones in front were trying to pull back from the slaughter, and the ones behind couldn't see why. Think about that. You're a Persian soldier. You can't see past the men in front of you. You hear screaming. You smell blood. The line pushes you forward. Suddenly there's a Greek spear in your face, and your wicker shield splinters like kindling. The casualties are catastrophic. Persians are dying by the hundreds. Greeks are losing dozens. The math is brutal. For every Greek that falls, 10 or 20 Persians go down. By midday, the ground is slick with blood. Bodies stack at the choke point. The second wave has to climb over corpses just to reach the Greek line. It's not a battle. It's a slaughterhouse with a waiting line. Xerxes watches from his throne on a hillside. He's seen armies break before. He's seen walls fall. He's never seen this. His men aren't being defeated. They're being processed, fed into a narrow corridor and systematically destroyed. He has one card left to play. Send the immortals. The immortals. 10,000 of Persia's finest warriors. They're called immortals because whenever one falls, he's immediately replaced. The unit never drops below 10,000. They're the king's personal guard, the elite of the elite. They've never failed. Xerxes sends them in as the sun begins to drop. The expectation, superior training and discipline will crack what numbers couldn't. The reality, elite means nothing when you can't use it. The immortals carry shorter spears than the Greeks, lighter armor. In open terrain, their speed and skill would be devastating. They'd flow around a phalanx, strike the flanks, create chaos. Here, there are no flanks. There's only forward. And forward means 8-foot spears wielded by men in bronze armor who've been training for this their entire lives. The immortals slam into the Greek line, and they die like everyone else. Stay with me. Because the Spartans do something brilliant here. Ancient sources describe a tactic, possibly exaggerated but telling. The Greeks fake a retreat. They turn, they run, they look like they're breaking. The immortals surge forward. Finally, the Greeks are cracking. Then the Spartans wheel around. Shields lock. Spears drop. The immortals, their formation scattered by the pursuit, run face first into a reformed phalanx. It's a massacre. Whether this feigned retreat actually happened exactly as described, we don't know. What we know is this. By sunset on day 1, the immortals have been thrown back. Xerxes has lost thousands of men. The Greeks still hold the pass. The King of Kings reportedly leaps from his throne 3 times during the battle, not in triumph, but in frustration and fear. He's never seen anything like this. Neither has anyone else. Day 2, doubling down on failure. Dawn. Day 2. The Persian army forms up again. Same strategy. Same result. But now it's worse. The pass isn't just narrow anymore. It's a charnel house. Blood has soaked into the dirt, turning it to mud. Bodies are stacked so thick that units have to clear paths before they can advance. The smell is unimaginable. Iron and rot baking under the August sun. The Greeks rotate fresh. The Persians don't have that luxury. The men who survived yesterday are exhausted, traumatized, watching friends die by the score. The men who haven't fought yet are watching the survivors stumble back, hollow-eyed, shaking. Morale is collapsing. And still Xerxes sends them in. Why? Because he's trapped. Here's where it gets strange. Retreat isn't just tactically bad, it's existentially threatening. Xerxes rules by divine mandate. He's the King of Kings, chosen by Ahura Mazda, invincible by definition. Every nation he's conquered believed that. Every satrap, every general, every soldier in his army believes that. If he turns back now, if he admits that 7,000 Greeks stopped him, the entire mythology of Persian invincibility shatters. Rebellions, coups. The empire itself could fracture. He's also fallen into the sunk cost trap. He's already lost thousands. To quit now means those deaths were for nothing. Surely if he just sends one more wave, one more assault, something will break. Meanwhile, at sea, the Greek fleet is holding at Artemisium. The Persians can't land troops behind the pass. They can't bypass the hot gates. Every option leads back to that bloody corridor. So the assaults continue, wave after wave, body after body. By sunset on day 2, the Persian army has achieved nothing except making the pass even harder to attack. The Greeks are tired but unbroken. Their confidence is growing. Xerxes needs a miracle. He's about to get one, but it won't come from strength. It'll come from betrayal. The weak point revealed. His name is Ephialtes, a local Greek from the region of Malice. History remembers him as one of its greatest traitors. Ephialtes knows something Xerxes desperately needs. There's another path. The Anopaia path. A goat track winding through the mountains behind the Greek position. It's rough, it's narrow, a nightmare to navigate in darkness. But it exists, and it comes out behind the Greek line. For the promise of a reward, silver probably, maybe land, Ephialtes tells Xerxes everything. Beat. Think about this moment. 2 days of slaughter, thousands dead, the greatest army in history stopped cold by geography and 7,000 stubborn Greeks. And it all unravels because one man wants money. The Greeks knew about the path. That's why they stationed 1,000 Phocians up on the mountain to guard it. But the Phocians expected a daytime approach. They expected warning. They expected to hold long enough for the main force to react. They didn't expect a night march. Xerxes doesn't hesitate. He sends the immortals, the same elite troops bloodied at the pass, on a forced march through the darkness. They'll loop behind the Greeks. They'll descend at dawn. And they'll turn that narrow corridor into a killing box, with Greeks trapped in the middle. Picture the map. The Greek position is a horizontal line across the pass. Now draw a curved line going up into the mountains, around and down behind them. That's the immortal's path. A dagger aimed at Leonidas's back. The Phocians on the mountain hear the Persians coming. The sound of thousands of feet crunching through oak leaves in the darkness. They scramble to form up, but it's too late. The immortals aren't there to fight them. They're there to get past them. The Persians push through. The Phocians retreat to a hilltop to make a stand that never comes. The immortals ignore them entirely, driving downward toward the coast. By dawn on day 3, the trap is set. Leonidas is about to learn that he's surrounded. Dawn of the final day. Runners come stumbling into the Greek camp. Scouts, survivors from the mountain. The message is simple and devastating. The Persians are behind us. They're coming down the mountain. We have hours, maybe less. Leonidas faces the impossible choice. Stay and die. Every man. No escape. The Persians will hit them from both sides, front and back, and grind them into the blood-soaked earth. Or retreat, save most of the army, live to fight another day, but abandon the pass. Let Xerxes pour through into southern Greece unopposed. Here's where it gets strange. Leonidas chooses a third option. He dismisses most of the allies. The Phocians, the Locrians, the other contingents. Go, get out. Fall back to the next defensive line. Live. Fight at Salamis, at Plataea, wherever the next stand happens. But someone has to stay. Someone has to hold the pass long enough for the others to escape. Someone has to make the Persians pay for every minute of pursuit time. The Spartans stay. All 300. Their law is absolute. No retreat, no surrender. They knew this was possible when they marched north. The Thespians stay. 700 of them. Volunteers. They weren't bound by Spartan law. They could have left with honor. Instead, their commander Demophilus tells Leonidas, "We will not abandon you." The Thebans stay, too. 400 of them. Ancient sources argue about whether they stayed willingly or were held as hostages. It doesn't matter now. They're here. Add the Helots, Spartan servants who carried gear and tended the wounded, and the rearguard numbers somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 men. That's it. Less than 2,000 men against the entire Persian army, front and back. That night, Leonidas gives his final order. The ancient sources record it differently, but the sentiment is the same. Eat well tonight, for tomorrow we dine in Hades. No speeches about glory, no false hope, just the cold acknowledgement of what's coming. Dawn is hours away. The immortals are descending the mountain. The main Persian force is massing at the western end of the pass, and 2,000 Greeks sharpen their swords in the darkness. The final battle. Dawn, day 3. The sun rises over the mountains and illuminates what's coming. From the west, the main Persian army, tens of thousands of fresh troops. From the east, behind the Greek position, the immortals descending from the Thermopylae path. The trap is closed. Leonidas doesn't wait. In every battle so far, the Greeks have fought defensively, held the wall, let the Persians come to them, used the terrain to neutralize numbers. Not today. Today, the Greeks abandon the wall. They push forward into the wider part of the pass. They're not defending anymore. They're attacking. Think about that. 2,000 men charging toward an army of tens of thousands. It makes no tactical sense, unless you understand what they're actually doing. They're not trying to win. They're trying to make this cost. Every Persian they kill is one less soldier marching on Athens. Every minute they hold is another minute for the retreating Greeks to escape. Every drop of blood they spill buys time, and time is the only currency they have left. The Greeks slam into the Persian front line with a violence that shocks even Herodotus. Men who know they're dead fight differently. There's no self-preservation instinct, no holding back, no fear of injury, just pure, calculated fury. The Persians fall by the hundreds. The Greeks push forward, stepping over bodies, driving deeper into the enemy mass. Spears shatter against shields and armor. When the spears break, the Greeks draw swords, short, brutal weapons designed for close work. The fighting becomes something primal, less like a battle, more like a brawl between butchers. Stay with me, because here's where the anchor of this whole story locks into place. The Hot Gates became Persia's graveyard, and now, in these final hours, the Greeks are determined to fill that graveyard to overflowing. The death of Leonidas. Somewhere in that chaos, King Leonidas falls. We don't know exactly how. A spear thrust, an arrow, a sword blow in the press of bodies. The ancient sources don't give us details, only that the king of Sparta dies on his feet, fighting, surrounded by Persians. What happens next tells you everything about what this battle meant. Both sides fight over his body. The Greeks surge forward to protect their fallen king. The Persians push to claim him. Leonidas's corpse would be the ultimate trophy, proof of victory. The fighting around his body becomes the most intense of the entire battle. 4 times the Greeks drive the Persians back. 4 times they recover Leonidas and drag him toward their own lines. Brothers, friends, soldiers who've trained beside him their whole lives, throwing themselves into the meat grinder to keep his body from enemy hands. They succeed. Leonidas' body stays with the Greeks, but the cost is catastrophic. Officers fall, Spartans fall. The 700 Thespians, fighting as hard as any Spartan, are cut down in waves. The Greeks are being whittled to nothing, and still they fight. The hill. The survivors, a few hundred now, maybe less, pull back to a small hill at the narrowest point of the pass. A tiny rise of earth, the last defensible ground. They're surrounded. Persians on all sides. No escape, no reinforcement, no hope. The fighting shifts. The Persians pull back their infantry. Why lose more men in close combat when you can finish this from a distance? The archers form up, thousands of them. Bows drawn, arrows nocked. One of the 4 Spartans, tradition says his name was Xerxes, sees the Persian archers massing. Someone tells him, their arrows are so numerous they'll blot out the sun. Xerxes doesn't flinch. Good. Then we'll fight in the shade. The arrows fall, not a volley, a storm. A darkening of the sky followed by the whisper of 10,000 shafts cutting through air. Then impact, the sound of iron points punching through bronze, through leather, through flesh. The Greeks raise their shields. Some arrows deflect. Most find gaps. Men fall. The shield wall shrinks. Another volley, another. The hill becomes a pincushion of arrow shafts and bodies. Greeks die standing, shields raised, facing the enemy. Greeks die kneeling, too wounded to stand but still fighting. Greeks die reaching for weapons with hands that no longer work. When the arrows stop, the Persian infantry advances to finish what's left. There isn't much left. The final Greeks fight with whatever they have. Swords, broken spears, shields used as clubs, hands, teeth, rocks pulled from the blood-soaked earth. They don't surrender. They don't ask for mercy. They fight until there's no one left fighting. And then it's over. The aftermath. Xerxes walks the battlefield. What he sees shakes him. The pass is carpeted with Persian dead. Thousands. Some estimates say 20,000 Persians fell at Thermopylae. The true number is unknowable, but this much is certain. The cost was staggering, unthinkable. An entire army's worth of casualties to kill 7,000 Greeks. The King of Kings finds Leonidas's body, and here's where you see how deeply Thermopylae rattled him. Persian custom demanded respect for fallen enemies, especially kings. Honorable burial, recognition of valor. Xerxes orders Leonidas's head cut off and mounted on a stake. He orders the body crucified. This isn't standard practice. This is rage. This is humiliation transformed into desecration. This is a world emperor who just learned that conquest has a price, and he, Can't handle it. The pass is open. The road to southern Greece is clear. Xerxes has won the battle. But watch what happens next. The price of victory. Within weeks, the Greek fleet destroys the Persian navy at Salamis. Xerxes watches from a throne on the shore as his ships burn, his sailors drown, his invasion stalls. Within months, the Greek army crushes the Persian land forces at Plataea. The soldiers who escaped Thermopylae, the Phocians, the Locrians, the men Leonidas sent away, they're at Plataea, fighting, winning. Xerxes retreats. He never conquers Greece. He returns to Persia with a fraction of his army, his reputation shattered, his empire's aura of invincibility pierced forever. The 7,000 at Thermopylae didn't stop the invasion, but they broke something more important. They broke the myth. Before Thermopylae, the Persian Empire seemed unstoppable. Nations surrendered at the rumor of approach. Resistance seemed pointless. After Thermopylae, every Greek knew the truth. They can bleed, they can be hurt, they can be beaten. 3 days, 7,000 men. A narrow pass called the Hot Gates, that's all it took to change history. The epitaph. The Greeks built a monument at Thermopylae. For the Spartans, they inscribed words that have echoed for 2,500 years. Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie. No boasting, no glory, just duty, fulfilled to the end. Myths versus reality. Before we close, let's set the record straight. Myth, only 300 fought. Reality, 7,000 Greeks held the pass. Around 1,500 to 2,000 stayed for the final stand. Myth, the pass was spear width the whole way. Reality, complex terrain with multiple choke points, wide enough for limited maneuver, narrow enough to neutralize numbers. Myth, millions of Persians. Reality, likely 120,000 to 300,000. Still massive, still overwhelming, still stopped cold for 3 days. The legend didn't need exaggeration. The truth was extraordinary enough. The landscape, today. If you visit Thermopylae now, you won't recognize it. The sea is 3 miles away. Sediment from the Spercheios River buried the ancient coastline under farmland. The narrow pass where Leonidas held, where bodies stacked so high the Persians climbed over their own dead, is a wide coastal plain dotted with monuments and tourist signs. The Hot Gates are gone. The kill zone is farmland. Only the mountains remain, silent witnesses to what happened at their feet. This is why ancient descriptions sound wrong when you stand there today. The geography itself changed. The battlefield is buried beneath 2,500 years of river silt. But the story endures. Why we still tell this story? Not because 300 Spartans were superheroes. They weren't. Not because the Greeks won. They didn't. Not at Thermopylae. We tell this story because it proves something that matters. Terrain can delete numbers. Tactics can overcome odds. Will can make victory cost more than it's worth. Sometimes you don't fight to win. You fight to make the enemy pay. You fight to buy time for others. You fight to prove that conquest isn't free. Thermopylae didn't stop Persia, but it broke the myth of inevitability, and that was enough. Closing August 480 BC. A narrow pass, a wall of bronze shields, 7,000 Greeks who knew they couldn't win, and fought anyway. The Hot Gates became Persia's graveyard. 20,000 Persian soldiers learned what that phrase meant. Xerxes learned it watching from his throne, leaping up in rage and fear as wave after wave of his finest troops vanished into a corridor of blood. The 300 Spartans get the glory. But remember the Thespians, 700 volunteers, who could have walked away and chose to stay. Remember the Thebans, the Phocians, the Locrians. Remember that this was never about one city. It was about a handful of free men who decided that some things matter more than survival. Leonidas's body was desecrated, his head mounted on a stake. Xerxes thought that was victory. 40 years later, a Greek army burned the Persian capital at Persepolis to the ground. The statue at modern Thermopylae shows Leonidas, shield raised, spear ready. Beneath him, the ancient epitaph carved in stone. Tourists take photos. Traffic rumbles past on the highway. The sea glitters 3 miles away, where no sea should be. But if you stand there at dawn, when the light hits the mountains just right, you can almost see it. The dust rising from 200,000 marching feet. The glint of bronze in a narrow pass. The silence before the first Persian charge. And 7,000 men who didn't run. If you made it this far, you're the type of person who wants the real story, not the Hollywood version. Like, subscribe and drop a comment telling me which historical battle to cover next. More tactical nightmares incoming.